Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Hello, everybody at home, and welcome to Houselights, House of Lee, specifically Spike Lee, as we journey into his filmography decade by decade. And this decade, we are doing 2018's BlacKkKlansman, starring the great John David Washington and his undercover Jewish partner, Adam Driver. I am your co-host, Tristan Riddell, and as they are with me every single week, Darren Moser and John Mills. How are you guys doing today?
Well, ready to talk about this movie because I very much wanted to see it when it came out, didn't get around to it, regretted it. And I'm glad that, once again, just as I said last week, podcast homework comes to the rescue. And I finally get to clear this from my queue.
So this is your first time watching it?
It is indeed. It is my
Fantastic.
first time watching.
Darren, how about you?
First time watching for me. I was tempted to put my podcast microphone under my shirt because apparently that's where you wear mics, but I figured it would be a little rustly. But no, I was looking forward to this as well on this journey of Spike Lee that we've been doing.
So how many years between films? I mean, like, obviously he did movies in between 25th Hour and BlacKkKlansman, but we're spanning a huge jump in time here.
16 years. That's like a kid.
Yeah.
His career between the two movies that we're covering could legally drive right now. That's pretty insane. So John, what did you know about BlacKkKlansman before you watched the movie? Like what did you know besides just the poster? You know, like what did you know about the film? Did you hear anything about it, or did you go into this blind?
Yeah, I mean, I knew it was based on a true story about, a black cop who had, with the assistance of a partner, infiltrated the Klan, and that it was billed, it was promoted at least as something that had a bit of a sense of humor, like it was, it wasn't tongue in cheek, but it approached it approached the subject with as much levity as possible, sort of a, if you will, you very much picked up from the promotional campaign that there was a mocking tone about the people that the main character was going after, the ludicrousness of the situation and the embrace of how we've all sort of nostalgically gone back and looked at the 70s as sort of like a wacky, loose time. Like it had sort of a Boogie Nights vibe about it based on the commercials.
I like that comparison. I really do. I think it's that was one of the things that Spike Lee said when he agreed to do it. He said, I will agree to do this. I will agree to cover this story, but there's gotta be a sense of humor to it. And I think that was incredibly beneficial to the project. I think that was very wise and very smart on Lee's part to bring some levity to it, because this is Spike Lee didn't even think that this was a real story. Like, I can't remember who talked to him about it and said, like, oh yeah, you should do a movie about this. And he said, no one would believe it. This is too crazy. He's like, no, this is a real thing. This actually happened. And Spike Lee was blown away. And I think that's so funny.
Well, the thing is, it actually, one of the first things I thought of when I heard the premise of the movie actually was a skit from the very first episode of Chappelle's Show.
Absolutely.
And it's an infamous sketch, and it's funny as hell. And so yeah, like it was the same thing where, oh, it's based on a true story was a little bit of a head scratcher, because it was like, oh, okay, sure. It catches you a little off guard.
And I think that's the thing, is that obviously we're dealing with very serious things here, and serious things that affect people in a very traumatic way. And I think Lee does a very good job of balancing that. Like, you have moments that are laugh out loud funny, but then you have moments that are absolutely terrifying and disheartening. And it's so hard to balance that, because I wouldn't call this a, no pun intended, but a black comedy, like something with black humor. This is very much like, it has serious bits, it has funny bits, but One thing that I really want to call out before Darren, I ask you a question is there's a moment where the one of the KKK member, the KKK member who's married, it's him and his wife in bed together, and she's saying she's like, we're really doing it, we're really gonna kill all these black people, and we talked about it for years, but we're finally doing it. There's music in the background, they're in a loving embrace. That scene is treated as if it's normal, as if this is totally an average conversation between two people that could have been made for laughs, that could have been made to be terrifying, and he made it matter of fact, and that in itself makes it funny and terrifying. And I think that like Lee kind of paints this movie with that brush. Darren, what did you think about the tone of this film? Like John was talking about the ad campaigns, about how it kind of made him feel like how Boogie Nights did in its historical retrospect. What did you think about the tone? Did you think it was as you watched this, did you think it was a comedy with some drama with comedy mixed in, or something new altogether? What did you think?
Yeah, I didn't know a lot going into it. So when, Alec Baldwin starts us off in this like tirade of propaganda, and I'm like, what is happening? And then we're seeing Gone with the Wind, and then all of a sudden it's like, boom, 1972. And I'm like, what just happened? Like, that was what a cold open to just really kind of shake you and be like, hey, here we go. And then once we're introduced to Ron Stallworth, it's like, it's interesting. It's like, that's the primer, but Ron Stallworth is the tone. John David Washington he's the embodiment of, he's like, I got to live in this time. I got to do my thing, but I want to be a cop, but I want to, I want these things for my life. Really, he is the tone. He's the pulse. So yeah, I didn't know a lot going in, but I think you really summed it up though, where Spike Lee knows when to paint with the brush of humor, when to paint with the brush of like terror, and even more poignantly, when to just paint the things that the Klan are doing as if they're thinking it's normal. And that's terrifying, because when they're just like on the phone talking about this, or, hey, let's go do this, you're like, but they're serious. And it's just, they don't need to twirl their mustaches. They don't need to be like brooding music in the background as they plot and scheme. It's like, no, like, this is guy down the street who thinks that this is a good thing for America, and it's chilling.
Well, I think that something that's interesting that Lee also does, and you got to give credit to the screenwriters that are involved as well, but ultimately the director is getting the performances that he wants. What I think is really interesting, really brilliant on Lee's part, is that the three main local chapter guys that we get to know, they're very distinct. And you have sort of the social climber, who you get the sense of he's glommed onto this as a political angle, where it's like, okay, this is my way up in the world. This is the ship I will attach myself to elevate my position. So how devoted he is, quote unquote, to the cause very much reads as, I'm as devoted as what will get me up another rung in the ladder. Then you have like the psychotic follower, which is Felix. And that's the guy of course he's the one that's going to carry the bomb, because he's just absolutely that dedicated. He'd suicide bomb himself if he had to. And then you have the guy where, in all honesty, just, I think it's Ivanhoe is his name, where he's slack-jawed, and he's the way that a lot of people, especially in a comic angle, would want to portray every member of this little cell of people. But you get the sense that Ivanhoe, in a sense, he's the type of guy where he's not quick. He's just happy to be in a group at all that will talk to him. And so, like, I think that actually is the most subtle and, I don't want to say empathetic, because it's not, but like the most subtle and genuine aspect that Lee infuses into the film is that they're not all soldiers. They're not all fanatics. Some people, there's a degree, they're all part of something heinous and terrible, but there's still stratification within that social group itself, just like any other social group.
With John, I want to ask you a specific question that's specifically geared towards you, John Mills, the man. So Felix's character, portrayed by Jasper Pakkanen, did he give you Ringo from Tombstone vibes? Because to me, he did. Like Michael Biehn as Ringo from Tombstone.
The mustache helps. Yes,
but like, and it's not just the mustache, but like his bone structure totally.
Vibe. Yeah,
but also the way that he portrays it. He was screaming Ringo to me. Am I alone in that? It's okay to say.
No, you're
yes.
not alone in that, because as I play it back, as I play it back in my mind, even his eyes, like the look that his eyes get sometimes, with the thrill of the idea that he's going to kill. Like, this is a guy where, like, whatever ideology he lined up with, he was going to be the guy that wanted to kill everybody that wasn't part of his group. You know, like that. The Templars were always going to align like that for him.
Now, Jasper Pakkanen, he when he auditioned for the role with Spike Lee, he did not let Lee know that he was Finnish, and just came in using the accent that he used in the movie, and just auditioned that way. Said like, "Hello, my name is Jasper, not Jasper, but Jasper," and like shook his hand and everything like that, and did the audition. And it wasn't until they got like a conversation going where he said he's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, I'm Finnish," and then dropped into his real accent. And Spike Lee was so blown away. He said he's like, "You have the part. This is amazing. This is great." I love stories like that.
And with good reason. I had no idea that he was Finnish until pulling up the Wikipedia page right before this. Like, I had absolutely no clue. So absolutely, like, an amazing job masking the accent. Didn't slip for a second.
So let's talk about the cast a little bit, since we're kind of like going into that. Like, Darren, what did you think about our main guy here, John David Washington? Like, we've seen him in a few things, culturally at this point.
I'm a huge John David Washington, like enough where I will go see a movie because he's in it now. I loved him in Tenet. I think that's what a lot of people kind of first got exposed to him by, and everything I've seen him in so far. I mean, I haven't seen his entire filmography, but everything so far, I'm like, he is a really good actor, like, and is able to blend in where I don't see John David Washington. Like I might, like, I obviously recognize him. Like, he's not like that non-distinct, but he falls into the character where I'm, versus like Denzel Washington. Like, I'm obviously his father, but meaning like when you see him in that role, you kind of see Denzel first, and then you have to like go into the role. Like, I feel like, John is more of a chameleon in that way. But yeah, I mean, I love him. Adam Driver. Yeah, this is that fun time of Adam Driver's career where he's just kind of popping up everywhere and just can do whatever he wants. He can do the little indie fixture. He can do the Spike Lee movie and everything in between. And he's a really good actor. Like, he plays serious. He plays funny. He's not afraid to play the funnier roles too, which I really like. Like, he doesn't take it too seriously. And while
and anyone who has seen him on SNL knows how crazy good he is at comedy.
Oh yeah. But Flip isn't a comedy role, but he, like you were saying about tone, he carries that tone that Washington starts, where there's times to be funny, there's times not to be funny, and there's times in the middle.
Yeah. Driver, I think, and Tristan, I think you said this in your review that you put out there, like, and I'll go ahead and echo it. And because I think the same thing is true with Oscar Isaac, that every time I see Adam Driver in a role that's not the sequel trilogy. Now, he was fantastic as Kylo Ren. I thought he was a high point of the sequel trilogy, regardless of what you think of the films. He was great.
Absolutely.
But every time I see him, I'm like, man, this is a guy that was better than the material, like, that he rose to stardom with. Like, look, let's be honest. There's a reason Adam Driver is getting so much varied work and notoriety. Like the big fear that anybody has being in like a big franchise series like Star Wars or Star Trek is this the role I'm always going to be known for? And it's like, seeing Adam Driver just in this, I'm like, well, yeah, this guy's safe. He's never going to be boxed in. He's got such a dynamic range. And what it is his humor is so dry. He has a very I lack a better way to say it, but he has a very sort of the way Monty Python could be, very, very dry, very straight-faced humor, where it's like, if you don't know he's joking, like you can't peg him down as joking, but you know he's joking, sort of thing. And it's all summed up in that line where he's like, "Are you Jewish?" He's like, "I don't know. Am I?" And it walks out. Like, it's such a great delivery of the line. It's such a real world way to just throw that line and walk out of the room. I love it.
Yeah, so what you mentioned earlier, Driver is clearly the Harrison Ford of the sequel trilogy.
Yes.
Well, it's his son, so I mean that makes low-hanging fruit there, Tristan. Low-hanging fruit.
So, like, okay, so like we talked about John David Washington, and we talked about Adam Driver, and we talked about Parkinson, and Paul Walter Hauser, who played Ivanhoe. There's so many great people in this movie, but I feel like we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the one and only Topher Grace playing the despicable David Duke. Now, this is, David Duke has to be the most well-known character, historical figure in this piece, I'd say, right?
Yes. Yep, sure is.
So one thing that I feel like you guys would enjoy is that Topher Grace is very much a nerd at heart. I've loved him since that 70s show. I've watched his career. He said that we don't see him pop up that much. So many people have said like, oh, why isn't Topher Grace a bigger name? And like, apparently he went on record and saying, he's like, I made a lot of money off of that 70s show and I'm fine. Like I just do the projects I want to do. And so he was, he read as much as he could on David Duke.
Ocean's 11.
He watched as many speeches as he could. And he tried to embody David Duke as much as possible for this movie. And he was so disgusted with himself afterward that as a palate cleanser, he took all 3 Hobbit films and edited them down himself into a 2-hour motion picture. And I just love that factoid so much.
It's a great way for him to decompress. I'll also say, so long as we're talking about Topher Grace, that he was in a 2004 movie with Dennis Quaid called In Good Company. That's a charming little rom-com that
I hated that movie.
I think people would enjoy.
No, I hated that. I saw that in theaters. I hated that.
Of course you did. You're dead inside. So I saw it in theaters too. Don't pull that card out with me. Grace's journey studying Duke must have been fascinating in and of itself, because Duke went through a period as well where he supposedly repented from these very things, where he rolled back, and I think he represented himself as like a born again Christian or something like that for a period of time, but then reverted again and started espousing the same sorts of things, like sort of like roller coaster ride sort of stuff. And it is interesting because I remember David Duke working his way into the national consciousness here and there when he like ran for president at one point in the 80s, I think, or something like that.
He did.
I mean, he never made it out, never made it out of the primaries or anything like that. But it was, I remember even back then I was so young, but I remember like the guy would get up there and, have these talking points and everything. And obviously he didn't like go out there and like give like a Klan rally speech sort of thing, but there was always something weird about the guy. Like he always felt like he was some sort of alien in human skin sort of thing. There was something like not, that didn't click about him. But I remember there was a period of time where he supposedly renounced this stuff, but he then like went back to it or something. I haven't watched his life, but all that to say, I can understand what Grace must have gone through trying to study the guy and get his mannerisms and his look and his demeanor accurate. And the thing is, if you look like at a historical photo, like when I'm watching the film, I'm like, oh, that's Topher Grace in a wig and a mustache.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But then I see a historical photo of Duke and I'm like, oh, that's actually that's what he looked like.
Yeah. We need to
weird
give Grace a little grace.
Completely reset my brain. Yeah, basically. It was stunning because he actually looked like him. I was like, what? What happened? So
as I was watching, I've seen this before. I saw this when this first came out. And when I was watching it in preparation for this podcast, memories started coming back to me. And I actually started texting my mother. I grew up in Urbana-Champaign, where the University of Illinois is. And so it's a pretty big, it's not a big town, but like for a college town, it's okay. Let's say 100,000 people. And David Duke unfortunately came to my hometown to speak. And there was a state trooper who went to my church, who is a black man, and he had to be on protection duty for David Duke speaking in my hometown. And I remember our entire congregation getting up, like we all huddled together and prayed for, I'm not going to give his name, but like prayed for our brother, the state trooper, and his safety, and how horrid it is that he had to be on safety detail for David Duke. And then just like to see that, John David Washington's character had to do the same exact thing. It was pretty crazy, the parallels to real life that happened, and just having that little tiny little slice of real life connection to that. And so, Darren, what did you think about this being based on a true story? Now, there is clearly, this kind of made me think about Unstoppable with John David Washington's dad, Denzel, where it's based on a true story, but amped up to 11. Because everything after, in real life, when Ron Stallworth's Adam Driver counterpart got nominated to lead the chapter, when they went back to their sergeant, that's when the sergeant pulled the plug. He's like, okay, we're done. We're not doing this anymore. It's over. That's the end of the story, is when that happens. There's a whole lot more movie left, and it gets crazier and crazier and more active after that, where you see the real Ron Stallworth on protective duty for David Duke. There's a car chase. There's a bomb. There's death. There's destruction. It's crazy. None of that's real. So what do you think about this being based on a true story, but then embellishing it for the third act?
I mean, yeah, I think we could all, even not knowing history, assume that the bomb was an embellishment, because that's pretty intense. But no, I mean, to talk about the bomb for a second, I think we need it, because in real life, people like that don't get their comeuppance. And the bomb gave us it's very much a plot. I mean, it's a very simple plot of like, oh no, the bad guys killed themselves. Our hero didn't have to do it. They're not a villain. And so that we've all seen that so many times in like superhero movies. It's like Batman can't kill, but he can not stop the building from falling on you, or something like that. So yeah, it definitely had that flavor to it, but I think it was cathartic, because you're just like, these are terrible, terrible people. But I like the fact that even after that happened, it wasn't like, and then the Klan was gone and life in the 70s was better. It's like, no, there's stuff that happens after that. There's more cross burning. There's more protests. There's, other things going on. So it's like, I mean, even juxtaposing into 2017 riots, and we're capping it with that. So yeah, while the fantastical story elements, I think I really enjoyed for the catharticness of it, but it didn't pull me out. It wasn't like it wasn't out of the realm of craziness where I'm like, oh, this would never happen. It's like, no, okay, I'll accept this, but then we're going to kind of go back to, this is real life, and they're really people like this, and there's really things you have to deal with.
See, I'm going to differ with you on that, specifically because I don't fault Lee for continuing to go, right? I think a fictional third act is fine. Whoever else you want to throw under the bus, Oliver Stone, whomever else, the liberties are always taken with biopic stuff like this, right? You're telling a film story. I think it got a little greedy with the bomb thing. It escalated a little too much, and I think it got a little jumbled at the end, because it became a bit of a stew, where it's like, oh, well, okay, we'll throw this in there. Okay, we'll have him reveal himself on a phone call, and we'll have a bomb go off, and we'll have this. And it's like, if we could have just trimmed that down a little bit, I think I think a more subdued, even if you have the coda, which is sort of a given from Lee at this point, but even if you retain the coda, it's a beautiful ending shot of them doing that dolly tracking shot, where you go out and you see the cross still burning there. But if you're even a little more restrained and you get the cop who acted so inappropriately at the traffic stop sort of thing, you get him and he's gotten in the sting. And then you have the phone call where it's like, yeah, well, guess what, idiot? You're so stupid. You fell for this whole thing. Ha ha ha. But then end just with this lingering sort of thing of what you're talking about, Darren, where I might not see anybody blow up or get their comeuppance or anything like that. But at the same time, that's the exact point of the film, is what you're saying, is that you won this round, but the war's not over, sort of thing. And so I think playing into the bomb aspect of it, while it plays fairly well, it doesn't serve the same purpose as the theme of the film.
I feel like if they got rid of the dirty cop getting his comeuppance, it probably would have been a cleaner ending and not as jumbled and a stew as you talked about. Because I feel like the cop was played by Frederick Weller, who plays such a good asshole. I mean, he's just got racist cop written all over him. He can just absolutely swim in that role. No offense to Frederick Weller, who I'm sure is a magnificent individual. I'm sure he's a great guy. But I feel like there was, I was actually feeling that, John, as I was watching it the second time for this podcast. Like the ending just kept getting better and better. And I'm not talking about like in the film perspective, better and better, but like, they keep going. Things keep getting more and more awesome. Like, the bad guys blew themselves up. The dirty cop totally ratted himself out and they were recording the whole time. And then like, Ron Stallworth called David Duke and called him a jerk. And like totally, I was like, okay, Spike doesn't usually end.
It's all the payoff.
Yeah, it's all the payoff. I was like, it was so much payoff that I was like, the shoe has to drop. And I think that's what Lee was going for. Now, I'm not saying that excuses it, John. I'm not saying that makes it good. But I do think Lee was trying to go over the top with all the payoff so that when they do something so awesome and they accomplish so many things, and then the chief cuts their legs out from underneath them, and then they see a cross burning at the end, it makes the fall that much harder. And I think that's why he went that hard, is so that the pushback, the whiplash, was that much more traumatizing before you get into the coda of the Unite the Right rally.
Yeah, I just think he went too far. I get what you're saying, but I thought it was too jarring, and I thought that it would have served a little restraint would have gone a long way. I think additionally, I know how many accolades this film has, but I started to feel the length as we were approaching the 2-hour mark, and that extra 14 minutes is noticeable. I'll go ahead and say it, but we've all been conditioned. Like, it's not like we're born into this world and we're like, 2 hours is the perfect time for a film, right? We come in and it feels right. There are long films that feel perfectly right at 4 hours. There are short films that feel perfectly right at 82 minutes. This film felt like 2 hours and 14 was, it could have been tighter, basically. And I think a lot of the stuff happening in the third act is where you could have tightened it, removed and tightened.
I think you're absolutely right. I think there was, I think, I stand by what I said about how the shoe's going to drop and it makes the whiplash that much harder. But at the same time, you have Laura Harrier's character of Patrice, and she's so anti-police, anti-pig. And not only is she dating someone who she calls a pig, she's now breaking bread with other cops and cops who are white. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, it feels like such a weird turn. It feels like fantasy at that point. Now, Patrice is not a real person. She's a character, but
yeah, I think even if you go that route where you're talking about like breaking bread, that gives you the opportunity to have all of the characters. They can be around the table and say, look at us, we're all together. Maybe this is possible. and then go into that sort of thing of like, but there's still a problem, like they all realize it, where it's like, we are lucky that our little bubble could work together like this. Why can't that go global sort of vibe to it? And I'm not trying to rewrite the movie. I'm just saying, like, that's the impulse I think they should have gone with.
I think part of the complexity is the fact that it is based on a true story. I think if this was a total fictional right from the beginning to the end, you probably would shave those 15 minutes off easy, because you start to have things like I'm not against development, but I could totally see, when Flip is going out into the field, that gets simplified to like one visit. Like, because that's where you start to see things compound, where it's like, okay, he visits this time, and now he's at this house, and now he's going over here. And every single time he's going out as Ron, you're adding complexity to the story, and you're taking more time to get to your final payoff. I can just see that in other movies where that, like how other movies might simplify a character by taking two real people and combining them. I think a lot of the actions I loved everything that Adam Driver was doing, but I think his particular story of things happening to him could have used more consolidation. And I don't think the movie would really be that worse for it.
I see what you're saying. I probably, in terms of condensing characters, I probably would have streamlined a lot more of the supporting type of characters and collapsed them down. I think that, I get what you're saying. It's tough because the film is juggling your protagonist with your co-protagonist. And there are times where Driver is commanding his scenes so well that it almost causes this double vision happening, where it's like, well, wait, is he the main? He's not the main character, obviously, but like it draws away. Very delicate balancing act when you have something structured like this. I think the film succeeds largely, but I acknowledge your point that there are points where it starts to lose its grip just a little bit.
I think one of the issues with that is that Adam Driver is such a magnetic presence that it's hard to battle against.
It's almost too big an actor for the role. That's
a good way to put it.
I don't know.
Almost.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a sense of too big, as in like when people say like too big, it's just like, oh, Tom Cruise is too big of a name for this kind of role, like that kind of thing. But like with Adam Driver, I don't think it's so much his name. And I know I'm not saying that's what you meant, but with too big I think like he is such a magnetic personality. He's so funny. He's so dramatic. Like he's just so good and so charming. You want to see more of him. And he's
stealing the scenes.
He's just supposed to be a proxy. And you're like, oh, wait, I want to get back to the proxy scene.
Can I offer that the most difficult thing to do would have been to do what might have been most necessary, forgive me for saying it, is cutting the character of Patrice and then giving Stallworth more. I mean,
Making a buddy cop picture,
I know
basically.
the dangerous territory that you go into, but the impulse to add a love connection for Stallworth, that hurts the pacing as well, because you never get the sense that it's going anywhere. And Tristan, I think you were hitting on it earlier, where it's like suddenly she's breaking bread with other cops, even though she hates the pigs. And it's like, I think in all honesty, that's the character where when they got along, the script and then later Lee, they didn't quite know how to resolve it. And so she never does resolve. And so she's shoehorned into, so then she got along with everybody because it was fine. And it's like, that doesn't feel genuine to everything I watched prior to that.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, John. I really like the actress. I think she did a great job as Patrice.
Oh, she did.
It's so funny that she was in Spider-Man: Homecoming. It's so weird that she was.
She was?
Yeah, she played the love. She was the love interest for Peter.
My Lord, it's been so long since I saw that film. I guess I'll have to go back and watch again.
Yeah, it's crazy town that Laura Harrier was the love interest in Homecoming. It's so hard for me to, because every time I saw her, I was just like, oh, you should be
Oh
trying
my
to go
gosh.
to the dance.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. I just took a peek at like a picture of her in the thing. I was like, oh, right. But please forgive me. I've seen Homecoming all of like once, and it was years ago. So
yeah, it's hard to picture. It's like the fro and the glasses really distract from what she looked like in Homecoming with the straight hair and no glasses. But yeah, I think you're right. It's just like that need to force in a romantic subplot. It just felt so weird because like, even though in this fictional portion of the story where, Ron saves her life, or actually, no, he doesn't really, because it just kind of resolves itself. I feel like that kind of person would still say, I'm not, like, thank you very much for your service. I'm not going to date a cop. And I feel like that's how it should have ended. That's how their relationship should have ended, in my opinion. And like, you don't have the dirty cop having his comeuppance, because that doesn't normally happen. It didn't happen back then. It rarely happens today.
Sitcom ending. Like,
yeah,
they're going to have a smiling freeze frame as they all clink glasses at the bar after getting the dirty cop out. It didn't go that far, but it almost did.
And that's what it felt like. It was too cheesy, it's too far. And I feel like I'm talking myself out of my own rationale that I gave you earlier, John. Where like, yeah, it makes the fall that much harder when you go back to it, but at the same time, it's just like, as you're watching it, it takes you out of it. You're like, is this a dream sequence kind of thing? Like, it's incredibly strange. And I think that that stuff that we talked about probably knocks it down at least a half star for me. As we get towards the end there. But before we get towards the end, I want to talk about the music. I loved this music. I was surprised at how much I love this music, because I know that it's one of those things where you know that Terrence Blanchard is going to do a fantastic job. Blanchard is phenomenal at what he does, and I of course loved what he did with 25th Hour. What he did was in 25th Hour was next level stuff. But in BlacKkKlansman, he was able to use woodwinds and strings and even electric guitar for the main motif, and it didn't sound cheesy or overwrought. It just flowed. Like, John, what do you have any opinions about the music?
Of all of these soundtracks that Lee has put together, except for the fact that I love Do the Right Thing, the music that he chose, because Public Enemy fan right here. But like, I think this is the best of Lee's films up to this point. 25th Hour is in the conversation, but this and 25th Hour, those are soundtracks that I'll put on and listen to. I think that this was a terrific score. Like, it was so good that I noticed it. That's the best praise I can give it. I noticed it without it being distracting. It wasn't something where it was better than the film. It wasn't something where it was worse than the film. It was something that was right for the film, but also something that could stand on its own. So like, it hit right where it needed to hit. I don't need to see the film to dig the music that's happening. So I think it's a wonderful, wonderful soundtrack.
Darren, do you have any opinions that you want to share on the music?
No, I think, like John said, it was, well noticed. I think also the pop music or pop culture music, from the era was also used well. I mean, we're so used to like Guardian movies now, just like being rife with like every piece of, hit you in the nostalgia. But this one, yeah, it used it sparingly, but it was like, oh yeah, oh that's right, we're in the 70s. Yeah, every time we looked at John David Washington, you can tell you're in the 70s. But yeah, no, I think the music was very good. It gave me a little bit of Inside Man vibes. Just, I don't know, some of the tones that they used at the very, very end made me think of kind of the main theme from that as like the villain theme. I'm not sure why that seemed to connect, but yeah, good music.
Can I toss something out there that I would like to just bring up? Is the film makes a lot of reference. This is one of the few things in recent history that I've ever watched that makes reference to the film The Birth of a Nation, which, any film nerd knows about, it's a disgusting film. When its politics are laid bare. I've watched it once, barely made it through because it's a slog by today's standards. It was odd to watch a scene where people were, eating popcorn and like, yeah, this is my favorite movie sort of thing. Cause it's a very jarring thing to think that anybody would approach a silent film that way, especially in the 70s. But obviously Lee is using it as a tool to illustrate that, that sort of thing leaves an indelible mark. And so, I mean, what I take away from it is I think Lee took the opportunity to sort of batter that film's role in history, because a lot of people make an excuse for it to say, well, this is, it is a breakthrough. It is, in fact, a breakthrough in terms of film narrative and structure and stuff like that. But at the same time, its role in history is it's basically the American triumph of the will. And it's like, so the question becomes, I don't know if I'm reading too much subtext into it, but I read that scene of them watching the film as Lee basically asking, do we really need to give this film accolades anymore? Like, we can acknowledge that it existed, but can we sort of not make any effort to lionize it? Because it's really not, like, okay, we can sort of compartmentalize and maybe we need to move on from it at this point.
Yeah, that was something that Lee has had a history with, because when he was a student at NYU, he was so pissed off that the professors taught the movie and talked about the movie without addressing its racist message or the role that it had in giving the Klan kind of a almost rebirth in the 20th century. And so he made a short film in a response to it, and it was very critical of the professorship in NYU. And so many professors took an offense to the movie that he made, the short film that he made, that he almost got expelled. It was a big deal. And the only reason why he was saved from expulsion was, I think there was a faculty vote, and they voted to keep him in, which is crazy, because now he teaches at NYU.
Right.
And that's how much, like, because I was taught this film. I was taught Birth of a Nation at film school, but we were taught the whole package. We were taught about where it came from, D.W. Griffith, and how much of a enigma he
crazy
was.
Person.
Well, yeah, I mean, just like he did so many. I'm not going to talk about D.W. Griffith, but yeah, like we
Best
were
not to.
Yeah, it's just we were talking the whole package, and it's so crazy to me that even in 1980, this wasn't put in historical context, and it's it's interesting because like I unabashedly love Gone with the Wind. I love that movie. I think it's great. It's the highest grossing film of all time, adjusted for inflation. No movie will beat it. No movie will beat it.
It's impossible at this point. It's literally impossible to beat its box office.
And it's a great movie. It's a fantastic movie when put into context, when put into historical context. You have to understand when it was made, why it was made, and you have to be, and I'm not saying that excuses anything. I'm saying you have to understand why it was made that way and also criticize why it was made that way. But it can still be an interesting piece of art. With Birth of a Nation and the fallout that came from it. Yeah, that's kind of the thing that, like you said, like, do we really need to have accolades like this? And I like that Spike, I call him Spike, like had that option to revitalize his hatred of that movie. And we even had a movie come out a couple of years ago that used that title, Birth of a Nation, about a slave revolt.
Yes.
Kind of like reclaiming that title. Darren, now one of my favorite cameos in this movie is Harry Belafonte. When I first saw it, I was just like, oh my God, it's Harry Belafonte. And then he started telling the most tragic story whatsoever.
So sad.
I mean, just beyond sad. It's heartbreaking, the definition of heartbreaking. And Lee did such a good job of being able to bring him in and borrow his gravitas. And with Belafonte and the story that he gave, there's a moment at the end when they all look at the camera and they're holding the pictures. Lee gets away with that. Like he becomes presentational. There's certain times. Now, like you talked about, like, when are we going to see the tracking shot, like on the on the platform, the
Right.
platform tracking shot. When are we going to see that? There's certain moments when he does certain techniques that
You're waiting for him to break the fourth wall.
Yeah, it takes you out of it, but not in a necessarily negative way. What do you think? What did you think about that scene? What did you think about Belafonte? What did you think about the presentational aspect of that, with him ending with them looking at the camera?
Belafonte was just so amazing in that, the way he's speaking. Again, I know it's Harry Belafonte. I know it's not this person that he's playing telling this story, but I believe every word he's saying. Like the way he's communicating it, it's like, no, you were there. Like, sure, you're acting, but I believe you were there. Like in the way he's portraying it. But on the full question, with a little bit of the breaking the fourth wall, honestly, the way I look at it is, and I'm just assuming intentions. Like this is just a guess, but like you're talking about Birth of a Nation and how things are taught. In a way, this gave Spike Lee an ability to be like, man, wouldn't it be great if film students were watching, or not even film students, just students were watching someone from this era tell this story. So you know what? I'm going to just put it in my movie, and then it is a teachable moment that we are teaching part of our history. But then he does it one more, where not only are we getting that story, which is, things that actually happened, but then the juxtaposition with the Klan, like during that is, like you said, that's what lets the look at the camera at the end work, because it's kind of a like, do you get it yet? Like that's the look. And that's not the end of the movie. Like, I'm glad that wasn't the end of it. Like that's the kind of thing you could put at the end, and when you're like going to fade to black and leave you on that moment. There's a lot more plot after that. But I think this was Belafonte's last appearance in acting before he passed.
I think you're right. Yeah.
I don't think the look at the camera plays particularly well. I agree with you that he gets away with it. I wish he hadn't done it. And I wish that, because Belafonte's storytelling is captivating. It is magnetic. I mean, God rest his soul, Belafonte. I mean, he had tremendous, there's a reason the guy, rose to prominence as an activist and as an artist. Like he had the full package with him. Right. And I think it could have worked, better woven in without that look at the camera, because the look at the camera is a moment that it's like a skip on the record. I'm enjoying the music and everything's going along. And then I hear that little thing and I'm like, and every time I listen to that record, it's going to be that moment where I'm like, okay. And I have to consciously walk past it. So I don't prefer breaking the fourth wall until you are at a specific moment like a coda, where then it's like, okay, look, I'm done with the storytelling part of it. Now I'm going to talk to you as a person, not as an audience member. That's my, is it such a big sin that I'm like, oh, this movie was ruined by that one? No, I don't think it plays as well as it could have.
No, of course. That's an entirely valid opinion. Absolutely. I think it would have been fine without it. I think it absolutely would have been fine without it. John, since I'm still talking to you and I'm looking at you, where would you put Lance Reddick in this film?
Woo! There are fewer choices than one would believe. And the thing is, the character that I would put him in as, and forgive me for not remembering his character's full name, but it's the
Kawami.
Is it Chief Bridges? No, Chief Bridges, the actual, like the chief of the police department.
I think it's just Chief Bridges. They don't.
How would that work?
But like,
yeah, I was gonna say, if he's the first black policeman in the,
it would require a slight rewrite. But I think Lance Reddick is worth it. But since we've put the guardrails on ourselves, hey, don't you dare! No.
I reject that opinion.
Where he still calls him the first officer, he's like, "But sir, you're the chief. Doesn't matter. You're the first in our department."
No.
That makes a big part of his journey.
Slight rewrite, Josh.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
all right.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Did I say that it's why? Am I saying that's who I selected? No, I said under different circumstances, that's who I would have selected. Okay. And I'm allowed to say
hear
that
part.
because I'm building up.
I put it in the spreadsheet already, John. That's what you've said. So.
No, that's not what I said. I'm telling a story, and now I'm about to turn to the audience and break the fourth wall. Okay. That's what I'm doing. And honestly, it's frustrating because there are a number of points, and it's not one that I would want to necessarily, but I would probably replace Corey Hawkins and have him play Kwame Ture. Even though Corey Hawkins did a great job. I'm not taking anything away from Corey Hawkins. It's just it's a Lance Reddick bit.
Every single time that we talk about where we would put Lance Reddick, we have to say like we have to do the Seinfeld-esque, but there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly.
Of course, like we don't want to replace anybody here. Like there's so many roles with so many great actors, but I have the same answer. I would have, even though Corey Hawkins did a fantastic job, I feel like giving Lance that one big speech, I think would be pretty cool to see him do that. I think the only other thing that I can think about that would be interesting is like an aged up Harry Belafonte, but Belafonte, you can't replace Belafonte. Like even in this hypothetical scenario, you can't do that. And so like maybe there's Isaiah Whitlock, but then you would lose out on his trademark line that he gives once again. I
don't want to lose Isaiah Whitlock. We lost him partially last time.
Yeah. No, I'd say so. Kwame with me as well. Darren, what do you think?
Yeah, I thinking along the same lines. I mean, it would be interesting to see Lance, do the role of Belafonte, but you can't. If you have Harry Belafonte, you cannot replace him. I don't care what he's doing. And yeah, unfortunately in this movie, because it's a police force in 1972, you're really limited by who you can swap. I think, we're unanimous. We are with Kwame Ture, his changed name. But yeah, I think Lance would do it differently. Again, he's always got that quieter tone, but it's more intense. So where Kwame got it, like he's getting people excited, but Lance is going to do that in a different way. Still get the same point across. But yeah, I think we're all so the third unanimous Lance Reddick vote here on Houselights.
Mm-hmm.
John, give me your rating on this film, on this motion picture.
I wind up coming in at a 3.5. It was a solid 4 or better until it hit those narrative bumps in the third act, and it got a little messy, and then it started running a little long. And so I come in at a 3.5, but it's a very loving 3.5, and I could conceivably see it moving up to a 4 on a second viewing. But right now I'm at a 3.5 with it.
I'm just going to piggyback off of that. I echo the same thing. Like, I really like this movie. I think this is really well done. I will most likely watch this again in the future. But I give it a 3.5 as well for the same reasons that you stated. I came into this thinking I was going to give it a 4, but exactly like you said, the third act is just a little bit too messy and it knocks down a 0.5 star. But I could revisit it and go like, you know what? I can forgive it. I'm giving it 4 stars. But I think as of right now today, 3.5 stars, but a very strong, loving 3.5 because I've seen this twice and I have cried twice at the end of this movie when we see the Unite the Right footage. It ends so hard with such a punch in the face. And Lee knew exactly what he was doing with that juxtaposition with footage and his dedication to the woman who died at the Unite the Right rally. And they released the movie a year after the anniversary of her death. It's so impactful. So Darren, what rating are you giving this film?
No, I'm right there with you guys. But for me, since I don't give 0.5 stars, is it pitch up to a 4 or down to a 3? And I think what tips it up to a 4 for me, yes, it has its issues. Yes, it could be condensed a bit, all the things we said. But at the end of the day, like this is something, and not that this is a tipping stone, but often for a movie, if I'm looking for that tipping point, is, am I interested to watch this again? Like, I would watch this again. I would pop this in to reabsorb. Again, Washington's performance is so good. I also kind of just want to watch it knowing what happens now. Because, you know, the first time you watch something and your kind of guard is up because you're like, how invested do I want to get into this character? Who's going to die? Who's going to what's going to happen? You know, who's, especially in this kind of volatile time. So being able to watch it a second time and really enjoy the humor, you know, enjoy all the Michael Buscemi shots, because I think he's just such a fun little, you know, insert into this. So yeah, I'm going to give it a 4 on the Houselight scale.
Well, everyone, thank you so much for listening. We love doing this. We love doing the show. We love talking with each other. We would do this even if we weren't recording it. And we want to hear from you. We know, what director do you think we should do next? You know, contact us on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. I think the best way to get a hold of us is honestly through email. I know that sounds old, but if you go to thenerdparty.com/contact, select Houselights from the drop-down menu, you'll be able to send us an email and let us know what you think of the show and who you think we should do next. And if you would want to take the time and go to Apple Podcasts and give us a review, we would really, really appreciate it. Darren, what are we doing next week as we round out our journey into Spike Lee's films?
That's right. We're rounding out Spike Lee. We're going to go into the 2020s, but only 2 years later to 2020's Da 5 Bloods here on Houselights.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.